Rookie minicamp has opened up this week, and this has been the question that has been kind of pondering around up top in the head. And I heard Terry Foster, Matthew Broder, Sean Belegian, that dude Justin, Willie B on the Lions Weekly Update show. They talked about it as well. Impact rookies. How many rookies from this draft class are we expecting to be impacts? And I believe another question is, how many do they need to be impact players? They got some needs on this team,
how many
right?
do they need? We'll see about. But I think two in particular have a golden opportunity to really put their stamp on this team right away. Of course, number one is Tyleik Williams. He's the first-round draft pick. He's the one that gets the fifth-year option. Brad Holmes was comfortable enough to spend first-round capital on him. And there's also an opportunity with Aleem McNeil being out for who knows how many weeks at the beginning of the season. That's going to be a big void. But Tyleik Williams can go a long way in helping to fill that void if he does live up to his first-round potential in year one. Do I think it's going to happen? I really can't see either way, but Tyleik Williams has that opportunity. Same with Tate Ratledge, and I know that I'm cheating a little bit by going by their first and their second-round pick, but they're first and second-round picks for a reason, and we all know that Graham Glasgow let's just call a spade. Graham Glasgow was the weak link on this offense. This offense was so immaculately good, and even on the offensive line, you had Panay, you had Frank Ragnow, you had Decker, you had Kevin Zeitler. The weak link was Graham Glasgow, and I'm not saying that he's never played well or that he didn't play well in 2023. But looking ahead, I could see Tate Ratledge starting week one. I know that when we were talking about players that I wanted the Lions to draft, Tate Ratledge was somebody who really grew on me over, as April went along and right up until the draft process. And I predicted that Tate Ratledge would start for this team day one. If Tate Ratledge is starting and Tyleik Williams is giving you good snaps with Aleem being out on a higher level and still giving you good snaps at a more rotational level when Aleem does get back, I think that that's actually going to go a pretty long way in this Lions team actually achieving the ultimate goal of winning the Super Bowl, because I do think you need at least a couple of rookies to make an impact this year.
Yeah, I definitely do, and that's where the ones at the top, Tyleik Williams and Tate Ratledge, I expect those guys to be more than just kind of depth pieces, but be guys that are contributing within the regular rotation. But then there is this question of Isaac Tesla, somebody that they invested in, somebody that they gave up some capital for, somebody that supposedly was a hot topic for other teams. And if the Lions did not go and do this, the other squads were going to go and get their wide receiver. Do you do that for a guy that you're not expecting to be an impact player this year, or a guy that you're expecting to potentially to go out there and compete for that wide receiver 3 spot? And that's one of the questions for me, because I do look at Hassanen and I look at Tesla, and I do believe that they are players that have an opportunity to, depending on how you define impact, to be able to have an impact in year one. Tesla is somebody I do believe has the potential to hit the ground running more than we think. Sure hand guy, speed, can run the routes pretty crisp. There are some things to clean up with the technique. But you're putting him with a quarterback in Jared Goff, who's really good with the timing routes, which is something that we've seen him be able to excel at, Tesla. Only thing is he hasn't been able to play with that many accurate quarterbacks, that's what I'm saying. At the NFL level, we understand that the speed is going to go up, the level of hits are going to go up, and he's going to have to prove to be able to play through that. But in terms of the just base skill set, the way this offense operates, the way they've been able to plug in a wide receiver 3, a wide receiver 4, and these guys go out there and contribute to some degrees, I am expecting Tesla to go out there and be somewhat of an impact player in year one.
With Isaac Tesla, to me, it was the ultimate luxury pick in terms for this year, or even looking at the future, because when you look at this Lions offense, as currently constructed, if Isaac Tesla was never even a part of it, if, let's say, the Lions didn't draft him in a hypothetical world, we're still looking at this offense as potentially, at its ceiling, the best in the NFL. You've got one ball. You're going to give a lot of targets to Amon-Ra, to J-Mo, to Laporta, obviously the best running back duo in the NFL. Tim Patrick with a full season, maybe, that would be interesting. But with Isaac Tesla, I think the impact that he makes is dependent on the health of the other weapons. We all know Tim Patrick missed pretty much all of 2022 and 2023 due to injury. If Tim Patrick goes down, Isaac Tesla, he might be needed to actually be that wide receiver 3. If Amon-Ra or J-Mo go down for any time, obviously Isaac Tesla will be a bigger part of this offense. But even if everybody is healthy, it wouldn't shock me if Tesla gets some snaps, if he makes a couple of big plays, because we know he's got that explosive ability or potential that wasn't entirely tapped into at Arkansas. So I think this year Isaac Tesla's impact in terms of being like an impact rookie year one is dependent on the health of the rest of the offense.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to him being a guy, though, that can go out there and be dependent on if you need for, effectively a few hundred yards, 300-400 yards, be a dependable guy. Like we saw Jameson Williams be just before his ascension. I do think that Tesla's coming in with a much better foundation. We already know the game-breaking and next-level talent of Jameson Williams, so I'm not comparing it that way. But just from a standpoint of a rookie, being able to come in, and he's a workhorse. We know that he's a guy that has somewhat ties to here as well. And so this is something that I do believe is especially when you hear him speak, too. When you hear the way he was like, thank you, Mrs. Ford. That, to me, man, you could tell that this is something that's a little bit more for Tesla. And y'all know about Kool-Aid. That type of stuff matters to me. We've seen it play huge roles. We talk about it with the Aiden Hutchinson, obviously, on the top end. But with the Tesla, the ability to go out there and make a name for yourself, to be able to help push this Lions team over the edge from an offensive standpoint, I'm expecting him to go out there and compete for wide receiver 3. And I like Tim Patrick a lot. I do. But with the investments given, I get what you're saying, because Brad Holmes has talked about it, going out there and getting a need before the need has actually revealed itself. Which is what they did with Jameson Williams. He wasn't necessarily need when they took him, but we obviously see right now they need J-Mo.
Yeah.
But Tesla is going to be somebody that adds a different splash to this offense. And we've seen it with other teams. I know there's some people out there, and I'm seeing it in the chat as well. I'm going to ask you, chat family. I'm going to read some of these comments, but chat family, put in the chat who you guys believe are going to be those impact rookies this year. So a lot of people I know are going to talk about Tyleik Williams. A lot of people are going to talk about Tate Ratledge. But I want to see what people are believing about Brad Holmes and what you need to see to consider this, at least this portion of it, a draft well cooked. But I'm seeing a lot of people. A-Diz for one. He said Tesla, Lovett, Raymond. And there's a lot of love going on out there, for lack of a better word. I see Mike G. Vanillatron looking good in camp. Zupo Cardia, Tesla won't get minutes over Tim.
Probably not.
He probably won't. I'm being fair, but I still want him to be, with everything they invested, I still want him to be a receiver that we look at and say, you know what? He's going out there and competing.
Sure.
He's going out there and earning minutes. He's going out there and making Tim Patrick have to continue to perform at a wide receiver 3 level. That's what I want to see out of Tesla.
Well, one of the reasons why I wanted to ask this question is that you may think, when you've got a roster that is as good as the Lions, that rookies contributing in year one isn't as imperative as in previous years. And to some extent, you're right. But when you look at Super Bowl teams of even the past couple of years, impact rookies are part of what has put all of them over the top. And I've got a couple of examples. We all know last year, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Do the Eagles win the Super Bowl without them? Absolutely not. Even in 2023 with Rashee Rice, he was the number 1 wide receiver on the Kansas City Chiefs. He was second on the team in both regular season receiving yards and playoff receiving yards after some guy you may have heard of named Travis Kelce. And he, as a rookie in 2022 with the Chiefs, you had Trent McDuffie. You had George Karlaftis be second on the team in sacks after a guy you might have heard of named Chris Jones. You had Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson combined for all 3 of the Chiefs' playoff interceptions. And, of course, you had Isaiah Pacheco, who was the leading rusher on the team. The 2020 Buccaneers, Tristan Wirfs and Antoine Winfield Jr. How do you like that for your first couple of draft picks? That was a heck of a draft by that team, but those were impact rookies immediately. Even the 2019 Chiefs, even though when you look at the names, they don't stick out as much as like the DeJeans and the Quinyon Mitchells and the Trent McDuffies, but Mecole Hardman had more touchdown catches that year than Travis Kelce did. He was 21 yards per catch. He had a kickoff return touchdown. Juan Thornhill was second on the team in interceptions with 3 and had the only pick 6 on the team. And even the 2018 Patriots. I know I'm going back, but I'm showing how much of a trend that this is. Sony Michel, as a rookie, was the leading rusher on the team in the regular season for the Patriots, and he had 336 rushing yards and 6 rushing touchdowns in 3 playoff games, was dominant in that playoffs. The point is that I think with this Detroit Lions team, whether or not 1 or 2 or more of these Lions are impact rookies could make a much bigger difference than you think. We know that we want Tate Ratledge of this year. If he goes in and is better than what Graham Glasgow was last year, that is a huge win. If Tyleik Williams is a day one starter or a heavy rotational piece with guys like Levi O and Reeder and Roy Lopez and continues to be that and makes plays and, eats up space, makes a couple TFLs, maybe gets some pressures and sacks, that's impact. And I think the Lions are going to need that. I haven't even mentioned Miles Frazier or Ahmad Hassanin yet because it's hard for me to put too high of expectations on 5th or 6th round picks. But as I said before in the show we did right after the draft happened, Miles Frazier and Ahmed Hassanin did special things in college. Miles Frazier didn't allow a sack his last year at LSU, and Hassanin had more than 20 sacks in his last 2 seasons at Boise State. You never know, but I do think a couple Lions rookies will have to make a major impact for the Lions to reach the ultimate goal.
And I'm glad you said that. I see John Afalora said too. He put the Egyptian magician, and that's one who, if they didn't address really edge, they went in house with everything, brought those guys back. They still have some options if they want to take a flyer on some of the players available. Still in free agency. I know that there's some Zadarius Smith love out there from a lot of the fan base. But that, to me, is what makes Hassanin so much more intriguing and interesting is that he's a position of need. So he's going to have an opportunity, especially when you consider that the defensive line is not starting off healthy. Even though we believe that and the doctors are saying that Aiden Hutchinson will be back and ready for game 1, I still believe that you don't get in game shape except for playing in games. And that sometimes comes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks to be able to find and catch that rhythm. And that's sometimes for players that have an entire offseason to just work out on their weaknesses and get stronger on their strengths, not having to rehab. That's where, I do believe that Brad Holmes, low-key, really, really, really cooked up in this draft. But you're right. The health of this team and this organization, the fact that they no longer have to depend on their 4th-round wide receiver to be the number 1 wide receiver, that shows exactly that this squad is in a position where these young players can actually get the development, the growth, the time, and the reps that they need without overextending, overexerting, or putting them in positions to where they have to play through their mistakes rather than being able to sit and learn and look at what the other players they've drafted. This is the way you do it. So Tesla, look, who cares about what people are saying your ceiling is? Because you know who else didn't care about what people said their ceiling was? Amon-Ra St. Brown. There was a lot of people who passed on him, including the Lions, for a couple of rounds. But when Brad Holmes strikes, he strikes. And I don't know. There's something about Tesla and Hassanin and the just the hunger, the fight, that motor, the mentality that they want to go out there and prove everybody wrong. And, yes, you're going to hear that from all of your draft picks. But when we know about Brad Holmes, guys, is that more times than not, he actually identifies the guys who put that talk to walk and not just continue to just blab about it. His guys are usually the ones that go out there and are not just barking, but they're also, like you said, biting off the kneecap and then taking a chunk out the butt. And that's what I like about these players here, and that's what I do believe gives them an opportunity beyond their talent, beyond kind of some positions of need, because I know J.B. Smoove, he was one of the ones as well who was like, maybe they do need to look at wide receiver in this draft. It was something that I pondered early on, too. Do they need to go and just add something to that room? Because they are, the last few years, it's been plug and play at that wide receiver 3. I do believe the need for wide receiver 3 in the future has been solved with the Tesla pick.
Sure.
And I do believe, at least for this year, he's going to be able to put a lot of pressure on Tim Patrick. And this overall, the wide receiver room, the playmakers, the skill position guys, they're going to be better for it.
Oh, yeah. And with Isaac Tesla in particular, Tim Patrick's on a 1-year contract. So moving forward, that he's somebody that the Lions look at as being one of the guys. I see a lot of different
comments.
I see a lot of comments in the chat.
Hey,
I believe even Dante151, Dan Jackson, he said it's a given with Williams and Ratledge, and I hope so. And he said, I'm on the Dan Jackson and Ahmad Hassanin train. I'll be honest.
Talk to me.
I'll be honest. I would be shocked if Dan Jackson makes the team. And that's no disrespect. He's a 7th-round pick. I don't really pay much mind to Dan Jackson.
Hassanin, man. That's the one for me.
But that's the thing. With Ahmad Hassanin, we have to – what's a successful season for him? Because I'm not going to put 10 sacks as a 6th-round rookie on him, and I think that there's a snowball's chance in hell that it happens with him as a rookie. But if he gets 3 or 4, can be decent against the run, can set the edge – that's a successful season for a 6th-round pick, and especially if he's top 5 on the teams in sacks, that's the type of impact that I'm talking about from a rookie that rookies on previous Super Bowl teams have made. Be one of the best on your team at something. And do I necessarily expect that from Ahmad Hassanin? I hope the Lions still do more at the edge rusher position, but if he gets 3 or 4 sacks and is just a decent all-around edge, that's a successful rookie season for a 6th-round pick.
Yeah, and I want to see these guys. When we saw Malcolm Rodriguez step on the field, it wasn't that the stats were going to blow you away because of the reps that he was going to or not get, but it was about the fact that every single play you understood this guy is going 150 freaking %, and he's going to run through your face if you don't do something about it. That's what I want to see from a guy like Hassanin. When you step on that field and you get that opportunity, go out there and just mash. Be the most physical, be the meanest, be the nastiest. Play up to the whistle. We won't say through it because the league cries. We've already seen that. They're already crying about the Lions playing to the whistle.
Through to some extent.
Through to some extent.
No penalties.
Yeah, thank you for putting that right because we got the Bears down the road crying about it. But that's what you got to see from these guys. When you're talking about maximizing who you are as a depth and as a role piece to be able to bolster a squad that has Super Bowl expectations, but it also has been undermined by injuries, this is where these guys have to be ready. I don't think Brad Holmes is drafting players without the thought now of these guys have to be ready if they're called upon this year. The next man up mentality is something they have to have and they have to perform. And these picks to me, they're very unique picks. They're very intriguing picks to me because they're at positions that I believe they needed to shore up. There are positions that could, during the course of the season, knock on wood, find themselves needing a little extra reinforcement. Now you got some guys who are going to be able to learn in some really, really, really good rooms. Like we're going to talk later on about the wide receiver rooms. Yeah. We understand what national media is starting to rank our wide receiver room in. It's a good one for Tulsa to be in. We already understand about this defensive line, the players that are there. It's a good room for Hassanin to be in.
I'm glad you mentioned Hassanin because I see a couple of chats back-to-back that are kind of both ends of the spectrum. John effing Lord, how about 4.5 sacks and 10 tackles for loss? If Ahmad Hassanin does that, that's insane. As a 6th-round rookie, I would be like doing backflips. But then the next one, marked Royal, Ahmed is playing special teams. That's it. If you were to give me my prediction, I think it's going to be somewhere maybe in between. But
because I did get I see Jeffrey Best. What about Lopez? We picked him up for free agency from the Cardinals. I know he was brought in to be able to shore up some depth.
Sure. And him and Levi, Reeder, Tyleek, they're going to have to hold it down when Aleem is out. That's a pretty Mekhi Wingo even. That's a good rotation. I think there's a chance Tyleek Williams has a golden opportunity to really make his mark on this team right away and have a damn good rookie season because he is needed more than maybe even I realized at the time he was drafted.
Yeah, definitely. You know what? Let's take a quick one, say what up, dog, to some of our friends and get back in TLB just a little bit more because obviously the impact of the rookies and what they can do for the Detroit Lions, it's about what they're going to do this season. And you know what? Some people aren't necessarily that bullish on who the Detroit Lions are going to be in the NFC.
Interesting. I can't wait to discuss that. And before we go, I have to read this one from L. To be honest, this is the first year I'd even consider judging Broderick Martin. He was drafted as a project. Who the F grades a project 2 years in? So, L, you're a Broderick Martin believer. That shows your intelligence. That's all I got to say.
I love Brad Holmes. My man's not 100%, but he doesn't miss often. But Broderick Martin is not the hill I'm going to
Yeah, because you can't draft a guy like that, even with trading up to get him. way overreaching for a guy who has contributed less to this Detroit Lions team than I have in the last couple of years. And I've contributed nothing. So whether or not he's a project or not, that was a bad pick. And that's okay. That's okay. Just the fact that you basically called for me in Kool-Aid's head and then were a Broderick Martin defender, that shows who you are, man. Not good. Not good. Your mother should have swallowed.